Welcome to another episode of Waves of Wisdom. Today, with me, here is a friend of mine all the way from Malaysia, joining me online, Dr. Avi. Dr. Avi is a CEO coach who trains and talks about leadership, who is also an AI founder and entrepreneur in AI space, global speaker. Welcome to the show, Dr. Avi.
Hi, yeah, it's nice to meet you and nice to see everyone out there.
How have you been out there in Malaysia?
I'm doing really well. It's been a good start to 2026. I'm really excited, and as you know, I spend time in Malaysia, Australia as my two homes, and we're having some nice weather at the moment. So I'm really enjoying it.
Wonderful. I'm glad to have you as my second guest 2026 of Wisdom. I am particularly excited for what we have got for today because before we go on with our session, which will be more of a practical coaching session from your side, and to showcase how we can actually effectively use coaching to get more clarity and career and stuff like that. But before I go ahead, as I used to ask from each and every one of my guests, what do you think about retirement? And what are your plans for retirement?
That's a very interesting question. Yes, to be honest, sometimes I feel too young to even think about it, but it's certainly something I've thought about. I turned 50 last year, and my friends and I are starting to have these kinds of conversations, right? And I think there's many kind of aspects to retirement that are kind of some idealistic and some practical. So, and this is something I coach my CEOs about as well. The part that there's a part of me that doesn't want to accept it is the aging process, right? And I always feel young. They say 50 is the new 40, 40 is the new 30, 30 is the new 20. So you always feel too young to even think about not working, right? So there's a part of me that's kind of in that non acceptance of that. And because I'm a doctor by background, very much into the wellness space, a lot of my daily practices are on longevity. So I don't necessarily see a particular age that I want to retire. And the other part of this is because I love what I do. I've always chosen more and more paths that are more aligned with what I love doing and what I'm interested in doing and my life mission. So it doesn't always feel like work. It's just a part of me. So I don't know how you define retirement when all you're doing 24/7 is just a part of me. But the practical part about retirement that I think I put a bit of effort in, and I certainly have, when I'm working with my CEO clients, think about is the financial part, you know, getting clear on what is the number that you need to hit in order to feel comfortable in your retirement so that you can have an annuity income post retirement, because this is a big challenge especially in developed countries like Australia and so on, where the cost of living is high, right? They need to save enough to make sure that they have that income stream. So we often build strategies for that. And I too have got a number, and there's a way in which we get to that number, and in terms of personal income, personal wealth, and so on. So that's a bit of a practical side to retirement.
That's interesting. And I think you are also someone I can call who has become unretirable in their life because you in the practice medical field earlier, right? And then you found another purpose in your life, which is more aligns with your passion and everything. And then you have found that synergy, and now you are carrying on with that. That's why you say it is hard to think of even retirement, for example. And I'd like to touch base and explore a little bit more on this formula into becoming financially independent. What you talk about, so maybe we can, as we go along, we can touch base on that as well a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, as I started my career as a medical doctor and then transitioned into business. First 5 years, pharmaceutical industry. I was chief of staff at Pfizer, helped it grow to over $1 billion in revenue. And that was about 18 years ago. And I was in my early 30s, and I was already advising the CEO of the largest company in the industry, right? And his name was John. And he was about to retire. Okay. And he had we had exceeded the $1 billion mark of revenue goal in Australia. which was a record for the pharmaceutical industry at the time. And John was an accountant, right? And he was about to retire. And at the point of retirement, I had the opportunity to ask him, hey, John, what was your biggest achievement in your career? And because he was an accountant and he was this very successful CEO, John said to me, I honestly thought he was just going to say to me, Avi, it was the day we hit 1 billion revenue. That was fantastic. We made a national record as a company and industry and so on. But he didn't. He didn't say that. And he said, Avi, my greatest achievement in my career is the people I helped grow and develop and in my career and what I've seen them go on to do now in their lives, and the impact that they're making in society and the world. And that really took me by surprise. That kind of made me think, okay, well, even a business leader who's been so successful in business and finances actually has been most interested and passionate and driven ultimately by the people that they've helped develop over time and the impact they've had on society. So I think that how that has shaped my thinking over the years, because since my Pfizer days, I went on to have technology companies. I've helped about 200 companies now across 20 countries with their growth strategy, execution, various implementation challenges. And I think I've coached maybe almost coach and advisor consulted close to 1,000, right? CEOs and senior leaders. And so a big part of what, as I said, everyone wants to achieve is their revenue growth and growth in their personal income. But as they become more self-aware of their own inner congruence, goals, purpose, and so on, they start to realize that actually what they want to do is actually impact people's lives. Particularly those in my clients, and they want to do more of that as they get older, as their financials start to balance out, and we help them kind of become very successful in that space. The impact side of what they want to do on the people around them starts to grow.
Yeah. I think I haven't discussed with you the model which I'm building for Unretirable, and the words growth, service, and impact. One of the key words which I have actually gathered from the interviews I have 30 plus interviews I have done on Waves of Wisdom, as well as other people I have spoken across the world about this topic. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting that you are summarizing it in such a way from the John story. So I guess every person with unretirable mindset actually have that.
Yeah, and our approach is, we've used extensive amounts of science and research on all these aspects, around business growth, algorithms for leadership, algorithms for societal impact, and so on, and meshed it all together into what we call a growth operating system, our zero CEO growth operating system. And there's a lot of evidence to kind of say that people over the age of 50 will make more impact, like sort of almost 10 times more impact in that decade than their entire life before.
Okay.
That decade of when you're sort of 50 to 60 is when you're sort of peak three things: peak energy, financially, and sort of alignment, right? Self-awareness, right? After 60, your kind of energy drops a bit. Your income might go up, but your energy drops a bit, typically. Not always, but typically. So, and then if you're in the younger days, you might have a lot of energy, but you don't have the financials and the influence and impact side of things, right? So this decade is sort of the one where we encourage a lot of our clients who are founders and CEOs to really get out there and do the big things they want to do, and not delay them any further.
Yeah, I think this is an important message. And also to realize that the power of the 50s and to be prepared for it from an early age on. So that is the kind of message I want to give everyone as well. I mean, don't wait till you are a retirement age, or don't wait till you are late 40s when you are really thinking about retirement, or when in 50s or 60s when you had the compulsory legal requirement of retirement. Don't wait for that. Start planning from day one when you are start working in your early 20s or late teens. So this is
Right.
when you think about, and you have to keep on finding your passion, because purpose and passion also doesn't come always, right? It's not
Yeah.
easy always to say this is my passion or this is my purpose. It
That's
comes.
right. Yeah, I find it's sort of inside out and outside in. The more and there are tools that you can use to figure out your inside out or align them. Like one great tool that we have is one called the Ikigai,
Yes.
Ikigai, which you may have come across in Japanese sort of culture, which is that alignment between, what do you love doing? What's the problem you want to solve in the world? How can you make money from this? And what are you good at?
Yes.
Now, and which is the strengths. And there are tools you can use to identify with our clients. We kind of help them work through those quadrants and find that center alignment, because there is where that center alignment, what the Japanese call the ikigai, that's where you gain the greatest reward in your life, both financially, customer base, impact, but also you make the greatest impact in the world as well. So you gain and you give in the biggest ways. But finding that alignment is partially things that you need to do and figure out for yourself. And it's partially also trying the world to giving you feedback, the environment, the business, the customers are giving you feedback on what's working and what's not. Most of the time, unfortunately, so many founders, CEOs, business owners, they're so busy just doing the day to day work that they're in the grind, right? They don't have time to step back, self reflect, and doing it in a systematic, structured way that gives them the right steps to do at the right time. So they have a better life and they have a better business as well.
Yeah, wonderful. I think I have come across Ikigai, and I think it's a wonderful framework to think of finding your purpose and aligning it. And then once somebody started living that life after they find it, this is when I call they are unretirable. Because there's no need for retirement. And also, people don't even think about retirement, like yourself. For example, when we are in, we might think about leaving some things behind. And these are the phases we go through in life. And once we go into this phase of
Mm.
acknowledgement and alignment of our purpose with our passion, and then we can actually live it and we can earn some money, or we have the financial means for it, then actually there's no need of thinking. Then we think about the impact we create, the people we can help to grow, and the change we can make in the world.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's so many people who I would just say have got good hearts and they want to make a great impact. And some of them there's almost like a couple of categories where there are some that they've got their business here and they work here. That's just work, right? It's
Mm.
got nothing to do with my heart. It's just work. And then the stuff that I'm passionate about, I do on the side. Okay, it's a hobby. I don't necessarily kind of want to get paid for it. I see that as pure service, right? And that's sort of one kind of balance around that. There's others that don't know where to put that service. I know there was one point in time where I was looking for volunteer positions and I couldn't find any that fit my busy schedule. So sometimes that's a gap. But then there's this other kind of group that tries to integrate that heart-centeredness, that conscious leadership, that impact leadership. Some even call it social entrepreneurship or profit with a purpose in their business themselves. These people are often entrepreneurs, business owners, and the business model, the service they deliver, has to make sufficient profit from the customers, the market, and so on. But it is also delivering a positive impact in the products and the services as well. Some of that is a bit harder to match up, because sometimes they become really challenged at being very profitable because they think they're taking away from the people they're trying to help, and it becomes a bit, yeah.
Yes. I think this comes down to our passion of professional speaking and building
Mm.
a professional speaking business around it. Actually, you are right. Even initially, when I started speaking and making impact or going and speaking in schools or colleges or different forums, I wasn't even thinking about monetizing until I found professional speaking as a profession. And when I tried to get engaged with other professional speakers like you, I think first we met at the Global Speakers Summit in Bali. So from that on, I have been thinking how I can align all these things together. And in fact, last year I started a small business. Maybe we can do our practical session on it.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm happy to help, through coaching you as a business leader, because I hear you. I've been through that journey myself. And, I think it was really a light bulb moment for me, because I've been doing public speaking since I was in school, right? So it's in the age of 15. And when I got into my corporate career, I was always, when you're part of a big brand like Pfizer, you just get the invites, and I would speak, and I was a highly rated speaker. But I had this light bulb moment. I think it was at Global Speaker Summit, or even a little bit before that, when someone said to me, "Look, you can either be an industry speaker or a professional speaker. But being an industry speaker does not mean you are qualified to be a professional speaker." And because a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I'm a speaker," and they often get invites in corporate settings to speak. But the difference between an industry speaker and a professional speaker is huge, right? The amount of technique that you need, the amount of storytelling ability, the ability to incite emotional resonance as part of it, the ability to get paid for that
Mm.
speaking gig, not just reimbursed for your costs, right, in your travel costs, but to actually get paid and to achieve a profit margin from that and to build a global brand is a completely different discipline and profession, right? And it's challenging, but it's also hugely rewarding because of the amount of impact you can make in a short space of time. It's very interesting to hear one of the top speakers in Australia that I got to kind of hang out with recently. And his routine was every 1 minute of a keynote took 1 hour of rehearsal, right? So a 60-minute keynote took 60 hours to rehearse.
Yes.
And that's how good it is. I think he charges, I think, minimum 25,000 per keynote, minimum. And so it is quite extensive to be as you progress up that level. But tell me about your speaking business, Iaz. Tell me about where is it now, and where would you like to be in the next 12 months?
I think as all professional speakers, we like to be global speakers at the end of the day to take our business globally. I have been speaking in Maldives in different forums and different seminars, summits, especially when it comes to business, finance, HR, leadership. These are the areas normally I have been speaking about. And also, of course, we run our own speaker summits last 2 years after we formed the Maldives Professional Speakers Association. I speak about speaking as well. And, I think that is where I'm heading to. My first speech in Speaker Summit outside Maldives will be in Chennai next month. I'll be speaking about the unretirable speaker.
Fantastic. Congratulations. What's your goal in this role as a professional speaker? Where would you like to get to with it?
Yeah. Personally, I enjoy traveling around the world, meeting different people from different cultures. Recently, I was in Bangalore. I catch up with the Speakers Association chapter of Bangalore. Some people from there, talk about them, got to know them, what they are working on, and speaking about as well. And it's something I'm very passionate and interested about. So this topic also I'm developing to help other speakers because I believe to become a true professional speaker, you need to adopt an unretirable mindset. I want to make an impact through that topic as well. And it is not only for speakers. There are other people from other professions whom we can, for example, yourself. You have been in medical field, but you transformed into a global professional speaker now. So you have found your passion in a different area. I found professional speaking is one of the ways we can actually give back and, like you mentioned, make an impact at a shorter period of time. And also something you can get highly rewarded.
Mm.
I want to bring more awareness into this and help more people to become unretirable in the coming years. That's what I want to focus on.
Okay. And it sounds wonderful. And you mentioned that you have the intention to grow it as a business as
Yes.
well, right?
In fact, like I mentioned, I was not charging for my speeches
Mm.
until recently. And beginning of last year, one of my objectives for 2025, one of
Mm.
my goals was actually to set up a professional speaking business and to register it and to start it as a business. So I registered a business called Ignite Wisdom Global because one thing I want to go global. That is one of my goals. As at the same time, I want to bring other global speakers to Maldives and our regional, SAARC countries, South Asian countries as well. Because part of my growing up was in Sri Lanka, and I'm very connected with Sri Lanka as well. We are trying to form the Sri Lanka Professional Speakers Association at the moment. Through those platforms, I thought I can help bring people from other countries to the region, to the Maldives, and then give them also a chance. Uh, for example, most of the countries like Maldives doesn't allow other speakers just to come and host their events without connecting or collaborating with a local business. And in
Yes.
Maldives, very few, or I would say very few, only a couple of businesses who totally focus on organizing learning events and stuff like that. So
Mm.
apart from NGOs or other associations, they run their own summits and conventions, but specific learning events is very rare. Recently, in November, we had our first master class launch with our good friend Vinay from India. He speaks
Hmm.
about sales mastery, sales skills, and stuff like that for entrepreneurs and
Yeah.
sales executives. So we
Yeah.
had our first event, which was a great success. And I like to carry this on. Like I mentioned, one of my objectives is to create a bigger impact and be helping
Yes.
other people to become unretirable. One of
Yeah.
the ways is not only delivering it through my own keynotes or training programs, also to create a platform for other speakers and trainers and coaches also to use that my platform as well to reach out to the audiences in a way which I cannot reach.
Okay, great. So you brought on some very, very interesting points right now, right? And often when I speak to founders, CEOs, and business owners like yourself, I listen to not only what they say, but what they don't say.
Yes.
Okay. And I often pick up more from what they don't say about how their mind works, because we use a lot of neuroscience and neuropsychology in this, as well as what they do say, right? So when I asked you earlier, where would you like to take this? What I hadn't heard is what's your financial goal, right? So maybe we can dive deep into that now. Have you thought about the financial goal for this business? So where is it now, and what's the financial goal you'd like to take it to in the next, say, 12 months or 2 years?
Actually, like you mentioned about John, I am also a finance professional accountant by profession, and will
Okay.
run my cost benefit analysis and doing anything. I think for this business, this particular business, my aim for next couple of years is to break even. I don't want to make huge profits out of it and make it $1 million company, but depends on how it grows, right? I have evaluated models like some of your from Malaysia, for example, Mind Valley, for example. Models like that has really emerged into when they initially created. I don't know if the founders had the vision of making it $1 million company, but ultimately it has become a huge $1 million company, right? Maybe in the future, for next couple of years, I won't really make it happen. And if it can break even itself, I'm more than happy.
Okay, that's interesting. And again, your choice is your choice, but it's interesting to observe. So I know Vishen personally. We're not close buddies, but I've probably met him at least 10 times. And I think for sure, they've grown to over 100 million at one point in time. I don't know exactly what it is now. So it is possible to make a very positive impact and be hugely profitable as well. And that's one of the biggest challenges that startups businesses have, particularly those with the social impact. They think they need to only break even, or they think they're okay with losing money because they just want to make an impact, because they are in an early stage. But that's not necessarily always necessary, right? So in fact, someone like Vishen has had financial goals in mind, and certainly he was mentored as he was growing to stop thinking like that and small, but actually start thinking bigger about growing his own personal income as part of the journey. And there were some big mentors that he had shared in the past in some of his keynotes on that. So I guess what makes you think that breaking even is okay?
It's hard to start as well because Maldives doesn't have the kind of environment or the I would say the ecosystem actually for this kind of businesses to grow. We have to build the ecosystem itself ourselves. First couple of years, I think it is about also building the ecosystem itself. It's unlike in Malaysia or Singapore, you have a well-established ecosystem for startups and also for learning and development and for learning events and like this. We have a lot of work to be done in Maldives in terms of building the basic structure of the ecosystem. That is one reason I said actually, one thing I thought was maybe I might be too ambitious to make it a very profitable business in a couple of years. Going forward, yes. I see your point, aiming for something great or structuring in such a way that it will start. I'm also not talking about doing anything free as such.
Yeah, absolutely. And and again, thank you for being so open and hearing and listening to feedback, because that's actually the key sign of success.
Yes.
For business leaders and coaches that are listeners. In fact, very interestingly, and you're from an accounting and finance background. I was speaking to a venture capitalist only yesterday, last night, about his portfolio of companies. There are 50 companies that have invested in. And you mentioned you make investments, and I asked him, what's a trait of your high performing CEOs and founders in the portfolio? And he said, I only focus on those that are willing to listen to feedback and be coachable. They are my best startup companies. These are mostly all tech startups, right? He says revenue is a lag indicator. The lead indicator is, are they open to listening and feedback, and then be successful. And that's why I kind of want to say, thank you for being open and listening to feedback, because that's already an indicator of success. Having said that, you have to decide whether you want a speaking hobby or a speaking business, because a speaking business is revenue generating. And yes, I know you're not thinking about profit making, and often people think that's noble. But actually, sometimes what you will realize as you scale up is this thing will take time and energy, especially as you scale up.
Yeah.
And in order to fund that time and energy, once you have enough funds from your savings, from your investments, from your other professions and portfolio, you may need to bring in team and other team members and resources, which cost money, in order to scale up the speaking portfolio. So I guess in terms of what you want to achieve there, what does it give you personally, or why speaking? Because in what you've described to me, there's actually at least three business models that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
One is speaking on stage; you get paid for speaking.
Yes.
Two is actually training, or L&D, learning and development programs, which is different to speaking, and it's a different payment model, delivery model. And the third is organizing events, or event organizing, which also has different business models. And it's tricky. It's tricky to scale multiple different business models. So what does any of these give you in terms of your personal satisfaction? Why do you need to do this now?
Yeah, I'll be very frank about that. Actually, personally speaking, for me, my speaking business as a professional speaker, to go in on the stages and speaking at different events, and it's all about two things. One thing is to see the impact it have on other people, how it can assist other people to grow or change their lives a little bit. Then I'll be very happy. On the other aspect, when I get involved in this, I have seen over the last 6 years how much I personally have grown actually. So it is for my own growth as well, which I'm involved in professional speaking, because I get to interact with a lot of other speakers and coaches and authors. I get to speak to them one on one. I build my network, my community. At the same time, I get to learn from them. That helps me to grow as personally as well, and then giving back to the community. So this is all about, actually, my speaking is about giving back to the community and helping other people to grow as well. And the on the other side, why I want to organize learning events or trainings and things like that is also because I have been involved with a lot of startup founders, startup communities, and people who are stuck in their mid career, for example. That is one of the reasons I started talking about growth mindset 5 years
Mm,
back, because
mm.
nobody was talking about growth mindset in Modis. I started telling people why you are stuck is because now you have got into a fixed mindset. You need to shift to a growth mindset, and always on a daily, you need to practice growth mindset. Yeah, that's the message I have been given. Anything I do, I want to help other people. For example,
Yeah.
specifically, I organize a sales mastery. For example, was because recently I have been attending a lot of creator economy startup initiatives of the government. I meet a lot of people, and I see one of the most important skills for entrepreneurs and the startup founders is sales skills. But this is one of the most lacking skills among the Maldivian entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I wanted, create an opportunity, give them that platform, and them to learn from it. So similarly, I'm thinking about leadership, different other aspects, because there are people who have really studied well. We are a highly educated community, but people lack practical aspects of leadership. People lack communication skills. This is why one of my programs, which I personally offer for executives, is about actually public speaking and presentation skills.
Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting, and it sounds like you've done quite a bit of, because you've been in the Maldives market, which is an emerging economy, a developing economy. And so, as you said, the market in your perception is small, but markets can be defined in many different ways. And ultimately, you've already defined the problems that entrepreneurs and business owners in Maldives have, right? That's your market, right? That's the opportunity. Lack of sales skills, lack of leadership skills. So theoretical professional education, you've reached that level of stage, but lack of practical postgraduate upskilling, right? Which
Application
is
of technology and stuff like that.
the application of that, right? Which is very common in developing economies. And so there is a significant market there, and you're penetrating that market with multiple different offerings or business models, right? Selling speaking, selling training or L&D, organizing events, right? Different ways of delivery and getting payments. So I think the question for me is, what do you want to have? Let me ask the question a different way. What do you want to have different in 12 months' time?
I want in 12 months' time the brand to be known, people to have the brand awareness that this at least is the platform, and at least to organize another 10 events in 2026. That is one of my objectives.
Okay.
My personal speaking business, I want to speak at least in 2 3 countries this
Hmm.
year. I have already got invitation from a couple of countries. To do that, I would say I'm doing two things. One is my this learning event organizing business, a separate brand identity, separate website, separate everything from my personal brand, which is on my personal domain name.
Yeah, right. Okay. And many speakers do that. They have a company brand, they have a personal brand. A lot of the time when you're small, people can't tell the difference anyway. Like whatever your company brand is, they'll still say, "Oh, it's Iaz's company," right? Because you're still the face of a business when it's small. But I see the point, and it's great that you've got some metrics around. You want to do 10 events in 2026. So it sounds like you're clear on that. You said you want to do 3 speaking engagements in 2026. So it sounds like you're clear on that.
I
How
mean,
much?
international. Locally, I might be doing more, but this
Right,
international.
right. And are those speaking events paid speaking events, or are you open to taking unpaid speaking events as well?
I'm open because I'm at the moment I'm at the early stage of becoming an international speaker.
Uh huh.
Also, I like to speak more about becoming unretirable as speakers and helping people to become unretirable. So I don't mind speaking about that more in the speakers summits and other events on career pensions, retirement pension summits, and stuff like that. Different areas. I don't mind speaking. I mean, not FOC, but certain costs are taken care of, right?
What you want to do and what you want to have different is your brand to be known
Yes.
internationally, for you to actually achieve or tick a few boxes of being an international speaker that's had the experience of speaking in multiple different countries. You've released the message around unretirable to the market internationally. So you've gotten some feedback and you're able to iterate on your keynote. So effectively, if you're saying you're willing to do that unpaid, you're basically investing in your R&D and marketing.
And also, I want to do a lot of travel, meet people, interview people, and also
Yeah.
this is what podcast. The first 100 episodes I want to base on how to become unretirable, and talking to people I believe are unretirable, because I started writing my book. I'm
Mm,
halfway through, so
mm.
I can hopefully write in the book and publish it by end of 2026.
Okay, so you're doing a podcast, you
Yes,
speak internationally, and you're halfway through writing a book as well.
yes,
There's a lot of projects to market yourself. It's a lot of investment, right, in
yes.
time and energy. What about the 10 events that you plan to do in 2026? Are you going to, are they going to be paid events? Do you expect to make a profit from that?
Yeah, every single event, even we did have a model event last year, and then even from that event we made a not a huge profit but some profits. So all these events will be collaborating with other international speakers and trainers, or it can be a professor or someone who talks about certain upcoming knowledge or something like that. It's not really organizing huge summits and things like that. Maybe a 1 day mastery, a 2 day boot camp, or
Yeah.
something like that, or the leadership retreat and things like that. Even at the moment, I'm working on an important leadership retreat to do in more for people from another country.
Yep.
So
Fantastic. So bringing corporates overseas to have retreats, Maldives. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. And I won't go into the dollar figures, but normally we'd go into that in a real session. What do you think's missing or broken in your business right now? Is there anything you would say is missing or broken in the business?
for me, it is currently kind of one man show with some assistance from friends. I think going forward, I need some dedicated people to run it. So this might be the biggest broken. We already spoke about bit busy with my personal speaking business, my 9 to 5 job, and things like that. And it might not be possible for me to do everything myself. And so I need people, even whether they are on a part time or full time basis or as partners or whatever, people to going forward. I know I need a team of people who will drive this.
Yeah. And have you identified the roles of the people you need? So are they going to be in sales, marketing? Are they going to be in delivery? Have you identified specifically what those roles are going to
Yeah, first it is about organizing itself. So somebody who might be really good at organizing stuff,
be?
and then marketing and sales is also important.
Yeah. And do you mean organizing operations? So like finance, HR, those sort of administrative tasks, or organizing the events?
Event stuff, yeah, organizing the event itself, because I think that is the core of the business, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there are different capability sets in terms of who you're looking for to hire. Is there anything else that is missing or broken in the business?
I think since it is quite new business, I cannot say anything is fixed or I'm satisfied with as such.
Hmm.
Um, Everything needs to be built
Yes. Right.
from scratch, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And are you clear on what you need to build first?
Yeah, I have been actually working on building the network, connecting with people, speaking with people. I think we both even had a discussion in this line. So
Hmm.
like that, I've been approaching some of the potential trainers, speakers who can do master classes, retreats, and things like that from across the world, and also some people from Maldives as well who can do it. So I think I already have identified at least more than 10 I can work with this year. Yeah. So I think that part is more or less taken care of. I have spoken with venues, venue organizers, and I mean event companies as well who are willing to collaborate. So the most important thing I think is about somebody to actually organize it, putting together all the pieces of the puzzle together and make it happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There is one other piece we haven't talked about, but I'll let you go. Is there anything else missing or broken uh, in the?
Of course, sales is the most important for any business.
Hmm.
I think to identifying the potential market, reaching out to them, and convincing people to, whether they are corporates, whether they are startup entrepreneurs, to attend these events is actually a huge thing, which the team who worked with me last for my last event realized it. And for about a week, I had to be on call with different entrepreneurs, executives, to ensure that we fill the space.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Customers. Yeah. And so, what you've just talked about, and thank you for sharing that, the things that you need or are missing or broken. So one was the fact that you need a team, right, to execute. And you're becoming aware that you as one person are unable to execute all these different business models like speaking, training, event organizing. You've also recognized that the most core capability is the event organizing role or event organizer role or event coordinator role, right? Which is something you need. But as we started layering that in, you said, well, what we call supply side dynamics, which is trainers, speakers, you're fine now. You've identified 10 that you can bring in. Venues also identified, good to go. But demand side dynamics, you're still a bit uncertain in terms of, or you're starting to recognize how much effort sales requires, how much time, and what resource you need in it, which is what we call demand side
Yeah.
dynamics, right? And so the thing is that you identified demand side last. Supply side, you got it sorted first, but you got your
Mhm.
demand side last. And it's usually the other way around. You need to understand the customers, the willingness to pay, the topics you've got clear, right? Sales, leadership, you've got the topics,
Yeah.
but the willingness to pay, the price they're willing to pay, the ability to acquire volume is something it sounds like you're starting to recognize as a challenge, correct?
I think that is the main challenge always, and always to understand customers' needs.
Yeah.
And so maybe I might have to get more involved with in the coming months with the people who are actually making these decisions in the organizations or
Yeah.
entrepreneurship community who will be taken. Actually, convincing them is more difficult to them even identifying the need.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And that's what selling is,
Yes.
right? So if you have developed a program or a value proposition or a topic that's really a high need, right? And it's designed in a way that meets their needs. So the timing, the topic, the venue, and the price all meets their needs, then the yes is easier.
Yes.
If you're finding difficulty in acquiring the yes, then there's something about your product or your program that doesn't fit. Typically, there's a business guru that had this kind of notion: if you got product, marketing, and sales in this order, we do sales because marketing fails.
Mhm.
If marketing was successful, we actually wouldn't need to sell.
Yes.
And we do marketing because product fails. If the product was great, we wouldn't have to do any marketing.
Okay.
There's
So the
this
product
concept.
design has to be aligned with the customer's needs, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not saying you need to stop marketing or you need to stop selling, because in the early days, this is what you have to do. And this is what you do to get feedback from the customers in order to understand where the resistance point is. Is it price? Is it topic? Is it value? What is it that's not hitting the mark? And then work out how do we tweak the program. Now, I'm conscious of time and we've got just a few minutes left. Quick question: what happens if you don't make this business a success, right? So what's the consequence for you if you don't make this successful?
I think the biggest consequence for me will be regret that
Mm,
I'm destined to actually make an impact through my connections and knowledge and my community to the people who can really benefit and change their lives, and I
yeah,
didn't do it. I think that
yeah,
will be the biggest consequence of regret I will have if I
yeah,
cannot make this.
right. So if you don't achieve the sales, if you don't fix the operating model, if you don't align the program to what customers needs, then you will not end up achieving the impact that you want to make in people's lives. Okay. So if we then sort of circle back to our entire conversation so far, what are three things that you've learned, that you've kind of taken away as kind of maybe a new insight or a new awareness or something you might do different as an action moving forward?
First of all, thank you very much, Dr. Avi. I mean, it's been incredible talking to you, and this session has been very different from most of the other sessions where I interview other
Yes,
speakers.
yeah. And thanks for
Session,
your openness, right? Because
yes,
it's tricky to put yourself out there.
understand. Yeah, it's different. And I myself is a ICF certified coach, and I understand when you ask questions why you ask those. But I think most importantly for me, actually, even as a coach myself, sometimes I get coached, right? Because coaches also have coaches.
Absolutely. 100%.
So it is important to get that clarity. And I think one of the most important thing, actually, which I haven't deeply thought about before, was about the market and market needs, which I think I really need to deep dive and understand much more than I understood before.
Mm.
So that really helped from your session as well. And the other thing is actually like the importance of making profit, because even when I mentor startup entrepreneurs and people like that, I always tell them have a profitability mentality, because without profits, the organizations will, and also cash flow. Cash flow is very important, because cash
Absolutely.
flow is the bloodline of any business. If you don't have cash flow, even if you have great assets and you have built infrastructure, still you will, because the most strong person also can die without, when the blood is drained out within 2 minutes. As a, you know that.
Yes. Absolutely.
So that really helped. Yeah. So I think I need to shift rather than purely breaking even
Yeah.
from making some reasonable profit as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it sounds like understanding market needs and understanding where there's real interest versus
Yes.
real value, right? The
Yeah.
difference between the two. Because a lot of people often say they're interested, but they don't actually sign the check at the end, right? So understanding where there's real value and willingness to pay, as you call it, WTP, willingness to pay, is critical. And then part of it is also your recognizing the abundance mindset or limited mindset or fixed mindset, as you call it, because we can't see these things. That's the interesting thing. Even though we might be the best coach in the world, I might be the top guru in whatever region it might be, but I can't see my own blind spots. That's why
Yes.
they're called blind spots. We can't see them ourselves. It's only
And that's
when
why
we have
coaches, I
conversation.
guess, right?
Say again, sorry.
That's why we need coaches.
Absolutely, absolutely, right. And that's why all high performing leaders, or many of them, do it. But one of the things I would also kind of invite you to consider is, your spread of business models. So you've got your speaking, which is going out internationally, and it gives you a certain sense of satisfaction, camaraderie, travel, and so on. And then there's your learning and development sort of programs. And then there's these events, right? Which kind of all overlap, but they all require different levels of competency, content development, and hiring talent, right? And so the more you spread yourself, the harder it is to be good or to be great at any one of those, right? But also importantly, the marketing, once you choose a particular business model, whether it's speaking internationally or learning and development events in Maldives, the marketing assets and collateral and go to market strategy is different for
Yes.
both. And it requires a lot of iteration to do it, right? So creating a podcast versus writing a book versus traveling internationally, that's all time spent, money spent, energy spent to achieve what? You want to achieve leads to convert them into a funnel to build a business somewhere. And if we've got multiple things running, and again, I've done this too, I still do a little bit of everything sometimes, but I'm very clear that my primary business model is CEO coaching. And all the other parts of the funnel is to, whether it's a small training event, which I do less of, or a keynote, is to drive people to the CEO coaching, right? Which is my signature program. So that's something for you to kind of identify that value stack and what's that primary business model that's going to support everything else. Does that make
I think that is very important. Yeah, you're right, actually.
sense?
Maybe because over time I will also get more clarity, and maybe we can have a real coaching session off camera once.
Yeah, yeah, sure. This is a new one, by the way. It just happened to be recorded live.
So
Great. Thanks very much, Iyaz. I hope that was helpful for you.
You, Dr. Ali. It's been an incredible session, and I think there will be a lot of takeaways for my listeners as well. Not only building unretirable mindset, but how to do it through building your own speaking or any other business which you want. Right, a speaking business is not different from any other business. The AI startup, whether it is e-commerce platform or whether it is building a real hardcore Uncle Sam's grocery shop, requires all these elements of business, right? I think it really enlightened with your years of experience and personal transformation experience, and also helping other CEOs. I think your contribution today has been incredible. Thank you, Dr. Avi.
Thank you, Iyaz. A pleasure to
What
be here.
be your last message for our listeners in terms of wisdom you have acquired over the years, or some impactful learning you have gained over the years? What would be something you'd like to leave with to our audience?
So there's one book that I remember reading about 20 years ago called The Billionaire's Edge, right? And it interviewed all these billionaires, because my methods come from learning from the best in the world, the people who have succeeded the most, and then reverse engineering how people today can get there, right? So it's people like Robert Kwok in Asia, and Oprah Winfrey, and Steven Spielberg, and Bill Gates, and but just looking at Steve Jobs and all these kind of billionaire leaders, and then looking for what are the common patterns neuroscientifically, business wise, and then reverse engineering. What was really interesting, that all these people, despite being very successful in different industries and actually having very different personality types, actually had one trait in common. And it was really interesting to identify. Can you guess what that trait might be? Yeah.
I think one of the traits was actually problem solving, identifying a problem and trying to solve it for other people, or helping other people to give back to the community or making an impact. I think that is one of the things.
Right. Certainly, most of them had that. But the one key trait that we found over and over again is this ability to focus.
Okay.
Just one word: focus. Knowing what the absolute focus was, spending time just on that, growing that one thing, and saying no to everything else that was secondary, right? Or the
Okay.
third opportunity, the fourth
Noise,
opportunity.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
cutting out the noise, but cutting out the second business model, cutting out the marketing channels that don't work. Just focusing on scaling one thing, doing it really, really well, and then scaling up only after that thing has worked well. And that getting that initial kind of business model, operating model right, and that focus to do that will actually, over the long term, magnify your impact significantly much higher. So that's
I
the
think
one take.
great advice, and that is something a lot of people nowadays lacks, and also with the next generation, their concentration or the focus, the time span which they can focus is also less, because they always want variety, and they can't concentrate on one thing. And this is really help. Even at the moment, I'm mentoring 2, 3 startups, and one of the things I always have to hold by hand in one of the founders is like, you are now going away from your what you really wanted to start. Come back.
Yes, that's right. It's called the entrepreneur's curse, right? The entrepreneur, we have lots of great ideas, yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Avi. It has been great speaking to you, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Likewise, yes. All the best. Bye.
Yes. Bye. And to all our listeners, this episode has been a different one. You have heard about how to build an entrepreneurship or business model, and what are the aspects you really need to do, and what are the things which has made other entrepreneurs successful, and billionaires and other people. Like Dr. Avi has said, focus is the most important thing. I think it is a great reminder for myself and you, everyone who is listening, that you need to actually focus on whatever you want to achieve in your life. That is one of the ways you can actually become unretirable. Until we come back again, don't forget to be awesome, and don't forget to live an unretirable life. Thank you.